A couple of unsavoury incidents a week ago in the match against the Giants have landed the flamboyant coach in hot water, and he will front a tribunal in Sydney at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Colin, the Falcons' office was shut to the press today, and the National Basketball League headquarters would confirm only that the meeting was to be held in Sydney. Meanwhile, it will be similar to a Falcons reunion at the stadium tomorrow night when the Hobart Tassie Devils take on the Falcons. No fewer than 3 former Falcons will suit up for the Devils, and the presence of Wayne McDaniel alone will ensure a full house. McDaniel is a legitimate superstar of the league and left the Falcons in controversial circumstances. Jerry Denard played a couple of seasons before departing for Hobart. Ricky Simpson came with former coach Steve Johansson from Adelaide, and while showing outstanding talent, never really clicked in Newcastle. For the Falcons, it's a long road back to victory after being comprehensively beaten by the league leaders North Melbourne. But with Michael Johnson in great form and James Bullock getting better every game, there is an indication that it won't be long before they turn the corner. The big question mark about tomorrow night's game: who will guide the Falcons from the bench? Over 100 competitors took part in the first day's competition of the Hunter Valley Taekwondo Championships, which has been conducted on a round-robin basis. And there were no hiding spots as the combatants threw feet and fist at their foes. The judges looked for technique as well as aggressiveness, and that was in big supply in the bout between Red Miller Janik and Joanne Cross, both of the Newcastle club. Joanne landed a great blow to the chest of Red Miller, which resulted in a standing count, but Red Miller fought back strongly, and when the judges had made up their minds, it was Red Miller who got the decision. All grades are taking part, and the next round of the tournament will be in October. Organiser of the event and 3 times national champion Ross Murphy explains the happenings further.
We've got fighters today from as far as Wagga, up to Armidale, Gunnedah, Narrabri, all over the place, Central Coast, Sydney, a lot from Sydney. So,
what are the judges looking for specifically?
Technique. So you can, if they're going to just get in there and brawl, you can pretty well get 2 people out of the audience and do that. So that's not allowed. So it's actually judging on technique at vital point. So it is a semi-contact tournament, so they're not actually going with the heels, which are your real weapons on your feet. Back fists, you can't punch to the head because of the knockout position becomes very dangerous. So it is a semi-contact tournament.
Along with the competition, senior exponents of the noble art of Taekwondo put on a demonstration that thrilled the large crowd. First up, Ross Murphy showed everyone a pattern.
The pattern is made up of a section of fighting movements. I carry it out as a fighting sequence. That way I allow my body to flow on. I believe if I do it just as a set of movements, I can't get the body flow.
Now, what is that designed for specifically?
I believe it's expressing your movements of what your training is. You don't train to go out and bash people, so I express myself through my pattern work.
Then it was the turn of Steve Tran, a 4-time national champion and 3rd Dan black belt, to turn up the heat. Firstly, a little warm-up by breaking the odd board or 2. Now, as we know with all demonstrations, not all go according to plan. Either that or someone threw in a plank of hardwood. No, not the first time. Oh, well, we'll get it the second time round. No, maybe not. How about the 3rd time? Gee, it's got to break soon. Hold it steady, hold it steady. How about I change angles? You beauty, thank goodness for that. But Steve Tran is a master of his craft, and we advise all people watching these next demonstrations, do not, and I can't emphasise enough, do not try these at home, as you will seriously injure yourself or someone else. Please don't try them. Steve easily made the bottom of a Coke bottle disappear into the bin, and then it was the turn of young Dave Ballard to act as William Tell, while Steve Tran whirled the deadly nunchucks with precision. To test your confidence level in the master, try standing in line while a blindfolded Steve Tran threw punches with alarming speed and accuracy. The piece de resistance, and again a warning, please do not in any circumstance try this at home. A blindfolded Steve Tran, a samurai sword and a luckless watermelon meat. And finally on the day, an unofficial world record was set by Ross Murphy. Ross will attempt to leap through a flaming hoop that is 5.5 feet long and break a board at the other end, his total leap being 18.5 feet.
The western bank of the Hunter River is a popular haunt for Muswellbrook youth. On Friday night, a group of about 10 young people gathered for a campfire party. Police believe most of the group left the area at around 2:30 on Saturday morning. Soon after, Tracy Chapman was approached by a man who, for no apparent reason, began to punch her about the face and body. He pushed her into the bonfire and then left the scene.
Police believe the girl was thrown into the fire here. They're not sure how long she lay here before she dragged herself 15 metres into those bushes and lay here for 13 hours before she was found.
She lay exposed through the cool night and then the heat of the day until she was found yesterday afternoon by a pair of youths who had attended the party. She suffered hypothermia as well as third-degree burns to her back and second-degree burns to her face, chest, legs, arms and hands. Muswellbrook police are interviewing witnesses and forensic evidence has been sent to Newcastle for scientific investigation.
We are working on a number of leads and hope the matter will be settled shortly.
Well, it was very horrific, of course. I'm sure you can imagine with so many people on the trains, so many rescue workers, emergency vehicles, helicopters flying in and out, so it was quite a catastrophe there when we first arrived.
You did bring a patient back here to Newcastle. Why was that?
Well, at the stage when we got there, the medical teams were triaging all of the patients that required urgent transport by helicopter. The patient we brought back was a suspected spinal injury, which was fairly serious. But at that stage there were many other spine injuries going to Sydney, and they were mindful of the overloading of the Sydney hospitals, so they preferred us to go north, and we brought him back to the Royal Newcastle Hospital.
Carter and Spring came together in the opening couple of minutes of the match, and it appeared that the players made bodily contact and that Spring's right hand connected with Carter's jaw, smashing it in 3 places. Spring was cautioned after a touch judge's report, while Carter was carried from the field semi-conscious. Resting at home today, Scott can't remember anything of the incident.
Just going up to make the tackle, and I realised the bloke wasn't getting the ball, and we've sort of collided, and then I was running away, and then all of a sudden I woke up on the ground.
Carter's teammates realised he was badly hurt and they took it out on St George with brilliant defence and attack. Man of the match Steve Fulmer was quick to praise the efforts of his forwards.
But St George, you know, I thought lacked a little bit up the middle. That's where I found my space, and our forwards are outstanding, and I take my hat off to them. You know, they just kept going all day, and I tell you what, I think we came up with more hits today than we have in the last 3 games.
Coach Alan McMahon had copped plenty of stick in the past few weeks, and he was delighted that the answer to the critics came from where it should.
What it means is you've got to unite a little bit stronger and a bit tighter and clamour together to pull yourselves out of it. But no, there's been no trouble, no drama, and of course that's where you've got to answer it out there, and fortunately we did today.
After spending a week in the reserves, local speedster Ashley Gordon seized his opportunity to prove everyone wrong by sizzling his way to 3 tries. And it was all the team, along with the coaching staff, who helped rectify the point-scoring drought.
We had a few team meetings and we talked about our problems, and Alan said that we go back to the basics and just put our head down and roll the sleeves up and go for it.
Good performance by everyone yesterday. The forwards did their work and there was a lot of backing up.
Yeah, well, you find that if the forwards go well, that the backs will do the rest. And the forwards did get a really good go forward, and the backs did everything else.
Newcastle Coroner's Court heard the Naglooka cruised to Moffat's oyster barn at Swan Bay on Monday, January 8, with 49 people on board. 16 men, 15 women and 18 children. Police say the pleasure cruiser left Moffat somewhere before 5 p.m. Several passengers steered the vessel on the return trip under the supervision of skipper Dennis Warner. While Joan Marion Rawlings was at the wheel, the captain started the idle starboard motor. The speed then increased. Some minutes later, the boat veered sharply to the left. The court heard that the skipper then took control, trying to correct his vessel. As he threw both throttle controls into neutral, the boat slowed rapidly and rolled to its right side, throwing most on board into the water. Police say the afterwash quickly flooded cabin areas, sinking the Naglooka within 20 seconds. 5 children remained trapped on board. Passengers tried to dive into the vessel and reach them, but they were hampered by debris, mattresses and the murky water. The court heard that divers eventually brought the children to the surface, but resuscitation attempts failed. Safety equipment recovered from the Naglooka was taken to Nelson Bay Police Station the day after the tragedy. Detective Senior Constable Bruce Coffey told the court that equipment consisted of 6 life jackets, 3 handheld flares and 1 parachute flare. Today's hearing heard evidence from investigating police, physical evidence officers and several passengers. Skipper Dennis Warner sat quietly in court, his wife by his side. Several witnesses, including police and passengers, gave evidence that Mr Warner was not affected by alcohol during the course of the cruise or at the time the vessel sank. A replica of the boat's wheel and control panel has been prepared for the coroner. The inquest continues tomorrow. Leslie Robinson for NBN News.
As usual, the 3 teenagers were in the pool today working on a punishing training routine for the tour. While it's a record number of locals in the squad, it came as no surprise to their coach, who rates them his best in 32 years of swimming.
We're in the Australian team, so they've got to be the best. And it's the best result we've had in Newcastle for as far back as you can go, really.
It's the first national selection for all swimmers. 12-year-old Amanda Hector from Waratah will swim the 200 butterfly. 14-year-old Jared Anthony from Hillsborough will race in backstroke, butterfly and freestyle. Philippa Reeves, a Newcastle High student, is a multi-stroke contender as well. But Philippa loves 800 freestyle. She's the fastest 13-year-old in the country and the fastest 14-year-old as well. Philippa has been touted as a future Shane Gould, a title she'd rather not have.
It feels as though if I don't end up as good as them, I feel like I might have let a few people down, and I hope that they understand that I am good, but I mightn't be that good.
The swimmers leave for Auckland on July 1.
The over 60s have chosen the start of the 1990s to kick off the Senior Citizens Tag and all the old images that go with it. The traditional Senior Citizens Week has been replaced by the new look Focus on Ageing, a 7-day campaign that aims to develop a positive community outlook on growing older. And the aim was certainly achieved by these dashing debutantes. Some were fulfilling a 50-year dream.
We missed it when we were young.
And is it fun?
Yes, great.
I have missed out on that as a young girl, and I thought it was just fun this time of my life.
Well, mainly because I didn't have the opportunity, 16, 17, because there was a war on, and I didn't have the opportunity to be involved at that time. So I'm doing it now and thoroughly enjoying it. A bit late, but better late than never.
The Debs were presented to Gosford Mayor Alderman Kim Margin at a ball that was enjoyed by over 100 of the Central Coast's more mature but still sprightly residents. Day 5 of the Naglooka inquest comprised chiefly of statements made to police from people who came into contact with the Naglooka on the day of the accident. They were read to the court by Sergeant Assisting the Coroner John Gibbons and included evidence from several people involved in the rescue operations and Sergeant Barry Hall, the Nelson Bay policeman who oversaw investigations into the tragedy. Among the more startling evidence given today was from staff at Moffat's Oyster Barn at Swan Bay, where the passengers of the Naglooka had spent the day. In a statement to police shortly after the accident, proprietor Lloyd Moffat said that Naglooka Captain Dennis Warner had made a booking for about 25 people. But when he arrived, he had more than 40, saying, "There's a few more than I thought." In another statement, Oyster Barn chef Douglas Gear admitted he was concerned when he saw the size of the cruiser as the passengers boarded to leave. He said, "It struck me that there weren't enough life jackets. They seemed to be crammed in like sardines." However, all the Oyster Barn staff did describe the Naglooka party as being well behaved and seemingly sober, in particular skipper Dennis Warner. In his statement, Sergeant Hall revealed he spoke with Dennis Warner several times on the night of the accident. He said Warner told him he had done a head count on the boat and had 43 people and a small baby on board. Sergeant Hall said he asked Warner who was at the helm. Warner replied, "Eileen, under my supervision." Sergeant Hall asked, "Can you tell me Eileen's surname?" Warner answered, "No, I knew her only as that." Nelson Bay fisherman Harry Hockard was first on the scene in his tiny cruiser, the Jaffa. In his statement, he revealed he arrived to find men and women and children everywhere. They were yelling and screaming. Hockard said he saw 2 men on the almost submerged Naglooka. They were trying to resuscitate a baby. One guy clutched the baby to his chest and jumped in the water. "I helped him onto another vessel," Hockard said. But despite continued resuscitation attempts, that baby later died. Mr. Hockard said he remained in the water more than 50 minutes helping victims. During that time, the bodies of 3 small children floated to the surface, one after the other. Mr. Hockard took all 3 to the police launch. Dennis and Carol Warner were in court today. At one stage, Coroner Kevin Waller asked if they would like to give evidence or wait until all the evidence had been given before speaking. The Warners chose the latter. Next Monday, the inquest moves to Glebe Coroner's Court with at least another 11 people to give evidence, among them the Warners and Carol Kershaw, a lady who saved the life of one of the trapped children. All parties involved are confident the proceedings will be wrapped up in the 4 days.
There's no doubt about it, Scone is definitely a horse town. What would Scone be without horses?
Well, I'm a sort of a horsey old fella. I don't think it'd be very much.
The self-crowned horse capital of Australia has unofficially celebrated Horse Week since the 1920s, but in the last 10 years has run an organised program of events. This year's street parade had 72 displays. Thousands of people lined the streets for a glimpse of nostalgia, from the Australian working stock horse to the troopers of the Light Horse Brigade, with descendants dating back to 1885. Through rain, hail and shine, the Cobb & Co coaches delivered the mail, passengers and vital supplies, once the only link between the bush and the city. Some were so determined to make the parade, they made their own ponies, although not everybody could keep in step. Horse Week continues over the weekend with camp drafting and rough riding. Later in the week, the famous Scone horse sales and a carnival of racing. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Right from the outset, BHP Australs looked a better side, and Simon Brand's effort went sailing over the top. Mickey Devon made a good run to take the ball close, but Doug Elphick couldn't finish, and that signalled a miserable half for the big striker. Marconi's keeper Mark Swarzer was in for a busy afternoon and made light work of this cross from Bobby Namoff. Elphick was once again in the thick of the action, pushing this one across the face of the goal, and then 5 minutes later butchered this attempt which should have resulted in a score for Australs. Even when they made a break, the Austral finishing let them down, and Gresham couldn't break the deadlock. At the other end, Marconi stretched Craig Carter to the limit on 2 occasions, with Venegaze and Kallick putting him to the test. Elphick paid the price for not getting on the sheet and was replaced at half-time by Paul Kristevsky, but it was Mickey Devon who brought out the best in Swarzer, and he again denied Australs. It was Kristevsky who hammered a left-foot drive from the free kick to scare the paint off the posts, but Mick Bugard went one better, hitting the upright from a Jones corner, and it was just one of those days. Late in the afternoon, Marconi nearly pulled off what would have been a miraculous win, but Carter was there to keep out Kallick's powerful shot. Final score, BHP Australs 0, Marconi 0.
Our judicial system is facing an unprecedented infiltration by the insect world. Thousands of multi-hued beetles are crawling around the hallowed confines of the Newcastle court complex.
These are juvenile bugs, they're true bugs. Their common name is the dual shield bug.
Their normal haunt is the Norfolk Island hibiscus, but these small beetles have developed wanderlust, leaving their leafy homes to congregate on and in the court building. Such is their nature, they have little reverence for the law. Rumour has it that a solicitor stood up to address the court to find a shield bug on his face. Reports too that Coroner Kevin Waller was distracted during a vital cross-examination when a contemptuous beetle crawled across the bench. It was an empty courtroom today, but the bugs were still there. Too long away from their natural habitat, and they soon lose their resilience. Sadly, one was dead in the dock. But the shield bug, also known as the harlequin bug, has an even more sinister alias, one that the curious soon discover.
They're related to the stink bugs that you get on citrus, and if you smell that, you'll notice a rather pungent odour from them.
It takes a moment for the smell to sink in. Once it does, there's no doubt how they earn their nickname. Be they stink bugs, shield bugs or harlequin bugs, these tiny beetles are raising hackles among some in the legal fraternity. Given their crime, there's little hope they'll escape the death penalty. Okay, Mr. Geddes, what do you think of the problem here with the bugs?
Well, the whole situation stinks.